Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Super Tease video. And I've picked up Affliction Warlock, and I'm pretty close to pushing 2400 rating in less than a week. This specialization is an absolute powerhouse right now in patch 10.1.5 after the rework, especially in ranked 3s. And solo shuffle can be a little bit rough when you're getting trained down, but I wanted to go through my gameplay and what I've been using to exploit to be able to climb rating as fast as possible. So the first thing you want to be utilizing on the Affliction Warlock is your mobility. You want to get your portal into a Z-axis location, get a gateway in a Z-axis location when available, so this way you can make yourself as untouchable as possible. This is a really important component. You can talk about Affliction's damage all you want, but you want to make yourself as annoying as possible to hit. So in this position, our opponents aren't attacking us, but we're ready to get away if we need to. We've got a full row of dots with Phantom Singularity out. We're going to be playing a Haunt build, which is going to really amp up the damage of our Oblivion, which unfortunately right here got feared by the Warrior. So we do get shut down a little bit. We're getting dots over onto the Holy Paladin. We're tossing out Curse of Tongues as well into the near future. We're spamming out Drain Soul. We're playing a Drain Soul Haunt build. This is a complete drain build. It's going to absolutely just destroy a single target. You're just going to melt them down while still getting a decent amount of AoE with it. I'll have the build in the description down below. Right now we're focused on kind of keeping dots out and protecting our teammates when they are the targets. So we want to use fear, but look, they're starting to poke me. I'm out of there, dude. As soon as anybody looks at me, I get out of there. Phantom Singularity up, Haunt out, Malefic Rapture, Drain Soul, big damage onto the mage. They're just getting absolutely destroyed right now. We could use Soul Swap here, honestly, onto the mage. Bit of a mistake on my part to not use Soul Swap. You know, you can get your Haunt onto multiple targets. It's just really powerful when you're able to do that. We end up Soul Swapping dots from the Warrior to the Paladin, getting dots onto the healer. Our healer's in a bit of trouble, but we see Life Cocoon going up. That's going to be enough to protect them and survive, so not in too much of a panic right now. With that defensive cooldown active onto the Mistweaver, we're just still focused on getting out as much damage as we can. Malefic Rapture to get Dread Touch out. This is going to give us even more dot damage onto the target. When you have Haunt and Dread Touch up, you just absolutely melt everything. You're just looking for this perfect moment to get an Oblivion right here. And I use Unending Resolve and almost eradicate the Warrior off the face of the game. Warrior runs away. I'm immediately tabbing to the next target. We got a Soul Swap up here ready to go. So we're going to get full dots onto multiple targets. We get Shockwaved. Who cares? Immediately out of that, going to go for Malefic Rapture, Drain Soul spam onto our targets, get a Haunt out, get that big damage dot buff, get a bubble and an ice block in the same push right there. Now my team's kind of getting separated, so I'm thinking about lobbing them a Demonic Gateway at this point, but looks like I didn't decide to go for it. We're going to use our Amp Curse of Weakness here to try and prevent the Frost Mage from getting a critical strikes. Warrior looks at me. I'm out. I just poured out immediately. I'm not going to let anybody touch me, and I just want to be as annoying as possible. Now here we're going for a coil onto the Warrior. We set up full dots. We're going to soul swap those dots over to the healer. We've got to be a little bit careful. Polymorphs here. Our interrupt's not off cooldown, but interrupting polymorph is really good against mages. This is going to stop them from counterspelling you and also from crowd controlling you or anyone on your team. So polymorph is just a really good ability to interrupt against mage in general. We're starting to stack over towards the mage. We're fearing him. He paths behind the pillar. Another thing you want to exploit with Warlock is fear pathing. You can send people absolutely out of the map. We get a Haunt up here. We're going to dark glare our dots over onto the Warrior, start channeling out Drain, start looking for crowd control on the Paladin, fear with a Drain, Rapture, get that Dread Touch up, Haunt and Dread Touch, Oblivion, massive damage. Only reason he's alive right now is Sacrifice and Die by the Sword, but that is redirecting a lot of damage over to the Holy Paladin. We're spamming fear onto the mage to stop them from polymorphing our healer in this position, keeping the dots up onto the Paladin, keeping the dots up onto the Warrior, really still focusing on triple dotting, Curse of Tongues out onto the Paladin. He's going to struggle to use instant cast with how far behind he is, so adding Curse of Tongues to make those casts even longer, it's going to be really tough. Drain Soul, we're playing a talent that procs instant Malefic Raptures. This is another important component of the build, so when you're getting trained and you're worried about a lot of interrupts, you can kind of exploit it. We're just going to skip ahead here through the waiting section here, get into the next game, port, gate up. We're going to jump off the side, and that's one thing you want to be aware of is you can use Drain Soul and fake instantly with it, and you can get these procs from instant Malefic Raptures, as well as a chance to get precog. My healer CC'd, I'm out of there. I'm porting up, and I'm going to be as annoying as possible to attack. We get Ring of Peace off the side. So we need to get into position to use a Demonic Gateway. Use your Dark Pact really high and really early. You want to make sure you're getting full value of it. If you're not using it high health, it just gets weaker and weaker as the lower that you get. We're also playing Observer. I've really liked playing Observer into any sort of caster. It's super powerful in solo shuffle. You definitely want to be abusing it because nobody kills it. It just gets a ton of free damage. Nobody kills it, and it absolutely owns. So 100% would recommend running it here in solo shuffle. We get a coil onto the Demon Hunter. You really want to use your crowd control to stop enemies from stunning you and interrupting attacking you. So I'm using Coil, and honestly, I should be using Haymaker more. I went Haymaker for a reason, so that I could Haymaker stun into a drain and absolutely just destroy somebody. So those are the situations that you want to be setting up. But if you're having a tough time casting Haunt, or if you're having a tough time casting just any spell in general, you can use Coil, or in this position be Kiltiran like I am, or just port out of range. And then if you port out of range, you don't have to deal with any of those interrupts. You get some distance away from your opponents. You can cast out those key spells like Rapture to get Dread Touch, Unstable Affliction, just to make sure you're getting all your dots. Here we got the healer feared, so I'm trying to fake interrupts. We get a fear onto the healer. We got the target really low, forces the trinket out of the healer, and we're going to drop a Tongues and CS the healer on cast. That Tongues is going to slow down any sort of casts and allow you to interrupt them more readily, so definitely something you want to be looking out to do. If anybody's just line of sighting you, don't be afraid. You don't necessarily need to chase and stand on top of them. Just get dots onto the next nearest target. Here again, we're going to Coil the Demon Hunter. This guarantees that we can cast a fear, which then will enable us to cast more. They trinket, so we're going to port away. Get distance. We don't want to deal with those stuns. Don't want to deal with those interrupts. We don't want to be attacked. We want to be as annoying as possible. Keep our distance. We get a counterspell onto the healer. In this matchup against a Mistweaver monk, their healing is ungodly. So especially against Affliction, you want to make sure your interrupts are going into Mistweaver monks like 100% of the time. Otherwise, they're going to easily heal through your damage. Now we get a fear onto the Mistweaver. You got to really focus more on crowd control when you're fighting this class. But we isolate the mage, get an Oblivion. Goodbye, sent straight to the ether. So it's such a fun spec when you're able to get it online, and the best way I've found to get it online so far is to just immediately use your portal and immediately use your gateway to get distance. Here we've got a melee cleave. They're going to go after our mage in this position, so we're going to have to focus on protecting them. We can use Amp Curse of Weakness, which is going to be really good to use against something like an Arms Warrior to stop them from critically striking. We want to get Haunt out. We're going to get max damage, Drain Soul, start getting stacks, start getting some Malefic Raptures out to get the Dread Touch going, and that damage is going to start ramping up fast onto these guys. Forces Revival, but while we're trading damage, our mage also gets critically low, gets shattered on their ice block, so we're not looking too great in terms of defense, but we sneak a fear, and this is what you need to do when you're left free and you're running some sort of double caster, especially Soul Shovel, is you need to be harassing the healer when you're not being attacked, pushing on them, getting fears, pushing on them, getting interrupts, tongues, trying to put them behind as much as possible while maximizing your damage. And the caster getting attacked should focus on pulling enemies behind pillars or pulling them out into the open so that the healer has to expose themselves for you to more easily control. So we get a fear, Hammer Justice on the warrior, Drain Soul, Oblivion combo, absolutely knocked out, absolutely melted and destroyed. Super satisfying to play this Drain build that I'm playing. It's not a build anybody else is playing. They're all playing the Soul Rot build, all playing pretty much the standard build that you would expect. But this build is particularly powerful. The main enemy that I've found so far has been Hunters. It's been really tough for them. I've just been kind of running at them and trading defensives and just running them down. It's been usually the best way, but it's really tough to kite a Beast Mastery Hunter, even on the best maps, to be able to deal with it. But we got our little nest set up. We got our gateway and our port in the back, so we're starting to push towards the enemies to get dots up on them. Agony and Corruption while you're on the move. Ideally, when you're out of range of interrupts, you want to be casting UA or Haunt, though. I see Ray of Frost. That's a really powerful spell against Frost Mage that you want to focus on interrupting. It's going to be the main spell that wins the game for the Mage, so if you interrupt every single one, you're going to be easily dealing with it. Here, we get a fear into a coil on the Demon Hunter. That's stopping them from stunning us, stopping from a dodge from interrupting us, which is let us get a full row of dots with Haunt and soul swap that over to the Mage. So 2 Haunts out at this point on 2 targets. They're really rotten. We're getting CC onto the Holy Paladin. We go for an aggressive Unnamed Resolve and Oblivion into Drain Soul, which almost kills the Paladin while he was looking there. So enemy healers, when they get on top of you, you can swap to them, you can fear them. There's a couple options. This position I chose to swap. Because I'm playing with a warrior, and warrior's going to have a lot of sustained damage. You can basically look at anybody and kind of knock them over. If I was playing with a control class, I probably would have feared the paladin instead in this position. Paladin's dispelling dots. We fake an interrupt, get our dots immediately back out on multiple targets, trying to soul swap those over to the Holy Paladin. Here we use Demonic Gate offensively. This could get punished. Now remember, I still have my port up top, but using mobility like this, just because they've been so dedicated to the warrior, they must have said that in the comms because it's a Frost Mage. They want to go after the warrior or something like that. But you want to get ready to get into a good position to port away if they do immediately look at you. We drop an Observer, Mage ice blocks, Observer already getting value, and you can see that Observer up in the sky just bzz, 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 just doing tons of damage to the point where the Mage just decides to run away from it rather than deal with it. We get Haunt out, but now we don't have to deal with the interrupts. So guess what? Oblivion with a full row of dots and a Haunt almost killed the Demon Hunter through Blur. We got a Stormbolt over onto the healer. We're really putting them behind at this point in the game. They're still kind of focusing the warrior though, so we got to be a bit careful. Anything like a Ray of Frost sneaking through right now could definitely end the match. Here we're trying to push towards the Paladin, trying to get crowd control, bolt, get them out of line of sight of the DPS. I've got into a stun lock here behind the pillar. We get Hammer of Justice, though. It's going to put us behind. And now I flip the switch, right? We got the Demon Hunter with no trinket so low. So I fear the healer, coil the Demon Hunter, fear the trinket, and isolate the Demon Hunter long enough to burst them down. And that's what I like about this Haunt build, is that it's flexible between Rot and Burst. Whereas the other build is almost exclusively Rot. And when you fight healers like Holy Paladins and Mistweavers that don't care about that type of damage, they'll just heal through it and you're going to be really miserable. So I have been preferring this playstyle. I'll have the talents linked in the description down below, but I just wanted to share some of my thoughts here on the Affliction Warlock and some tips and tricks for you to utilize to start climbing and having a lot of fun on the ladder. Other than that, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below, and I will see you in the next one.